right, we got this thing up and recording, and I'm glad to see everybody here. I'm a little bit hurt. I can't decide if y'all are here because we're talking about investing or if because it's Erik. Either way.
Erik!
Investing.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, thanks, Deborah.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
I'm assuming you're in town somewhere. Please don't let me put an ATB out for somebody who is zooming and driving. Just because I'm dirty like that. But okay, so today we're going to be talking about wholesaling. Erik and I, we've been talking about this for a while to really kind of share our experiences, and I'm really glad Hillary's here because I think Hillary's probably going to be the queen of wholesaling at this point. I think she's wholesaled more properties than Erik and I combined, so I'm really glad she's there as well.
Marco.
And well, I know, but we all know who's really doing the work. So we all know who's really doing it. Thanks, Hillary. It's nice of you to give a shout out to your husband, but
where is he playing video games?
We can make fun of him because he's not here.
No, he actually he ran a bunch of errands and he took the kids with him, so I wouldn't be crazy, which was really sweet of him.
What a good husband.
I know it's not easy to take kids in and out of the car like 500 places. So I was like, you really don't have to do that. He's like, no, enjoy a morning by yourself. So it's been nice.
Oh,
Nice.
What a good husband. Yeah, he's after something. Heads up.
Brownie point.
So
I do
all right,
that all
so
the time. Not really.
Let's get started on wholesaling and what I know about it, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk a little bit about how we wholesale. And
didn't you do a wholesale?
I did, but we're gonna talk a little bit. I mean, we're gonna get some different opinions on this.
What are y'all's thoughts on just having a wide open discussion? Like y'all ask questions and we answer.
Well, before we do that, we're going to have a Q&A. But before we do that, just to recap what wholesaling is. Wholesaling, guys, is assigning a contract that you have on a property. So for very simplistic sake, is you go out and you purchase a property and you get it under contract. Let's say we get this property under contract for $50,000, whatever the situation is. And when we get the property under contract, instead of actually technically purchasing the house and owning it, and then selling it, which would either be considered something like a wholesale or a flip, what we do is we simply give the contract to somebody else. So Erik and I were actually talking about a house that I have under contract right now. I got it under contract 2 days ago for $44,000. I was showing Erik I was showing the property, kind of talking through the exit strategies. He goes, "Why don't you wholesale it to me?" Which would mean I would literally just give the contract to him for whatever price. Like let's say I do wholesale it and I want to wholesale it for $65,000. That means Erik would sign a piece of paper saying, "Hey, look, this is what we are doing. We are assigning this project for $65,000, and Collin will get the difference between the 44 and the 65." Now, with that being said, Erik has to abide by the contract that I signed. So he's probably going to want to see the contract. He's going to want to know, is he paying for a survey? Is he paying for whatever it might be? He's going to want to see the contract, but I'm going to get the $21,000, and now my hands are off of it. This tends to be an exit strategy that a lot of people use very early on in their real estate investing career because it's very, very low capital.
I'm not giving you $65. I'll give you $1,500 over.
$1,500 over. So no. So it's nice because it's very, very low capital. Where you spend your money in wholesaling tends to be on marketing and going out and doing that. You don't actually have to come up with the $44,000 to buy a property. Hillary posted one the other day. Hillary, what did you make, like $69,000 on a wholesale assignment? Is that right? Say it again.
70,000.
Yeah, $70,000.
You're buying lunch Friday.
You're buying lunch on Friday. So,
hell yeah.
So
Yeah, that was
$70,000 is that's a huge assignment fee, and that's great. And then the best thing about that, guys, Hillary made $70,000, but basically only spend the money on the marketing to catch all that stuff up. Which is good. She didn't actually have to buy the property and take it down. And we'll go through her scenario because I am interested how she found the property and how she did all that. So the first question that a lot of people ask whenever they're talking about wholesaling is, Collin, where do you find these deals? There's a myriad of ways to find these deals, and a lot of them come from marketing. One of the things that I know Oscar's been doing and doing very successfully lately is something called driving for dollars. Oscar's been driving around and he finds a house that looks distressed. The yard's overgrown, windows boarded up, whatever it might be. And he sends them a letter going, "Hey, I noticed that your house looks like crap. Are you interested in selling it?" Okay. Essentially, you don't want to use that verbiage, but I know there's a lot of apps out there. You've been using an app called Deal Machine, right, Oscar?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know there's a driving for dollars app. There's one called Deal Machine. I know Propelio will do it. There's a ton of apps that'll do this, and they do charge you on the postcards. So I know Deal Machine sends out postcards. You can take a picture of the photo through their app, of the house through their app. It'll put the photo on the postcard and it'll mail on the postcard. And you can set it up like, hey, I want you to mail on a postcard every month for the next 10 months until somebody, you know what I mean? And I what is it, Oscar? Like $1.25 a postcard?
It's well, they have 3 different sizes. So, but the most ideal one is 55 cents. I think it goes up to 75 cents and maybe 85 cents if you want to get to a bigger postcard.
Yeah, and you can do handwritten notes. You can do whatever you want. Now, as you can see, guys, 55, 75 cents doesn't sound like a lot. You multiply that by 10 months. Now we're talking about $10. And let's say Oscar goes and sees 100 houses. So that 100 houses is going to end up costing him $1,000 to send mailers out to, if we're considering a dollar a mailer, 100 houses over 10 months. Hopefully we get some of that back. Now, I will say this, that a lot of houses are people don't want, that they're hard to get a hold of. So you can also go in and you can skip trace. You can, try and find their phone numbers. Oh yeah, I can put that in the chat. There's a lot of different things that you can do to try and find these people, but the trick is finding them. A lot of times when houses are vacant or distressed, something's happened.
Well, with double sheets, you can skip trace too. So I'll usually skip trace first, try to call them, text them, whatever. If that doesn't work, I think it's like 14 cents or something. I don't know what it's cheap. If that doesn't work, then I put them into a handwritten two mailer postcard campaign.
So the ones that I've been finding lately is I've been marketing to the probate list. Probates are people that are died that they're currently going through probating a will. And that are died. Are died? Yeah, no.
Have died.
Are died. Are died. Sorry, I'm conjugating that incorrectly. So people that have died, and I find their next of kin, and I send them a letter saying, hey, look, I know somebody passed away. And
essentially an ambulance chaser.
I'm essentially an ambulance chaser, or a hearse chaser, probably more accurate. You can also do this with the foreclosure list. By the way, probates and foreclosures are both public record. You can go down to the courthouse. You can also find them online. Whatever county you live in, you can find it. And it is public record. Now, the next of kin on a probate deal, their information is not necessarily public record, but then you can skip trace across that and try and find them. For those of you that don't know, skip tracing, there's 100 people that do that. Skip tracing, just Google skip tracing. You give them a name and an address, or some of them want names and addresses, some of them just want names, and you send it to these people, and they charge you anywhere from 5 cents to $1, depending on which service you use. And they send you back their address, their phone number, their email. They try to find the information on these people so you can reach out and contact them. So what you do is you get a hold of these people and you say, hey, look, if you're looking to sell your house, I'd love to help. Now, we're doing this right now on the White Line Realtor page. So everybody on this call right now is licensed. And this is something very important that I wanted to talk about is, as a licensed agent, how do you go about talking to these people? Me personally, when I go in and I talk to these people, from the very beginning, I walk in, the very first thing that I have them do is sign an IABS. Hey, thank you so much for meeting with me. I do need to ask you real quick to initial this piece of paper saying that I gave it to you. I am a licensed realtor, and if you read the very top line of the IABS, it says the minute I have a substantive conversation with anybody, I need to provide you this form. This is not agreeing to do anything with me. This is literally letting you know that I'm licensed, your rights, dealing with a licensed person, and how to get me in trouble should I do anything unethical, or if you need to talk to anybody about me, because it's got Erik's phone number, it's got everybody's phone number above me. You can definitely call them and let them know that something's not right. So I want to make sure you're protected. I'm going to let you know that I am licensed, and as you can see, I'm going to do everything as ethical as I possibly can. Now, I'm going to talk to you about 2 different options. I said, one, if you want to sell your house for cash, I can help you with that. I am an investor. I can buy the house from you. With that being said, guys, I let them know, I said, I wear 2 different hats. If you want to sell your house quickly, and I talk to them about the advantages of this, selling your house for cash is wonderful, and a lot of people like to do that. You don't have to do any repairs. We don't have to worry about any inspections. We don't have to worry about any appraisals. You don't have to worry about moving anything that you don't want to move. That depends on your strategy, but it's like, if you don't want to move that couch, or if you don't want to clean out that shed in the back, don't worry about it. I'm going to be bringing a dumpster. I'll throw all that stuff away for you. That's one of the advantages of selling them for cash to somebody. It's going to be a lot quicker and easier. The problem with selling for cash is you're probably not going to make as much money. It's going to be a little bit less money. If you would like, we can list this house in the MLS like a traditional real estate transaction. The advantages of that is you're probably going to get more money. The disadvantages are you're going to have to more than likely get an inspection, an appraiser. It's going to take longer. We've got to list it. I don't know how long it's going to be in the MLS. It could be, 1 week, it could be 6 months. You're going to have people running in and out of your house. Say it again.
Real estate commission.
You're going to have to pay commissions. There's a lot more, but you might make some more money doing this. You might not. Now, before I go any further, we can talk about both of these. But once you make a decision, guys, you have to say this. Once you make a decision, if you're going to sell it to me for cash, I'm going to put that hat on, and that is the only hat I can wear from that point on. I cannot take that hat off and change your mind. If you decide you want to list the house with me, great. I'd love to do that for you. However, once we make that decision, we cannot go back to me buying this house for cash. And ladies and gentlemen, that is because we have a fiduciary responsibility. Once we become their agent, we work for them. If they decide for me to buy the cash property, I work for myself at this point. I am not their advocate. I'm my advocate. And I say it just like that. So the decision's yours, but once you make the decision, we have got to stick to it.
And then we have the form that Hillary.
Yeah, and then we're going to go through that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to share. Go ahead, Oscar.
Just real quick, what's the reason for that? I mean, if they're the ones making the decision, why couldn't they flip-flop if they decided to?
Because it's because of the information that you gain during the process.
Okay.
If you gain information, like let's say they said, oh, hey, I want to list it. I want to list it for $80,000, but ultimately I'll really take 60. You now have proprietary information as their fiduciary, right?
Yeah.
And so the minute they go to flip-flop, you've got information that you can use against them. Okay. On the other side, you're acting independently of yourself. Guys, you can't work both sides of the transaction. You cannot do that. That's why we have things like intermediary. If you decide to sell to a white line agent, we've got to have intermediaries with assignment. We've got to go that whole road. And there's videos about talking about intermediary. I don't want to go into that today. So you've got to pick one and you've got to stick to it. Otherwise, you're jeopardizing your license, you're jeopardizing fines, all kinds of stuff. Because you got to remember, Trek's looking at it as if you're the devil with more information than any other human being on this planet, and you are just running around trying to take advantage of people. That is how you have to think of yourself as an agent, is that they are trying to get you. So that's what I tell them. When we put one hat or the other, that's where we go. Okay. So I'm going to screen share real quick and show you just a couple of things. Yeah.
Quick question on that, Collin. Is that true regardless of the direction that they flip-flop? So like if we started out,
it doesn't matter. It does not matter which way they flip-flop. You pick one, you stick with it. Okay. Hillary, would you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Erik, do you agree with that statement?
Yeah. I mean, there's some gray there.
There's some gray.
Well, I mean,
there's some gray here too.
I'll give you an example. So I'm buying some property in Seguin on Angel Lane, and they showed up. They wanted to list it. I said, great. If they're from Kentucky, they inherited it. They haven't seen it in 15 years. And I said, well, let's jump in the truck and let's go look at this property. And we pulled up to it, and it was literally an acre that hasn't been touched in 15 years. Somewhere in the back was supposedly a mobile home. And, at this point, we hadn't really gone either way. And I said, hey, let's just go look at this property and see. I'll give you my feedback. And at that point, I gave him my feedback. I said, this is going to be tough to sell in the MLS because it needs to have, machinery in here to clean and clear. You're going to have to cut this mobile home up to get it out because it was almost broken in half. But if you sell it on the MLS, you're probably going to attract an investor. I do buy properties like this, and I'm willing to buy this from you. Which way would you want to go? And they said, no, we want to sell it. This is what we want for it. And I said, perfect, I'll take it. So, I mean, I didn't know anything until we went and looked at it. Their initial intentions were for me to list it. Once I saw the property, I then explained to them, what I saw, and then they decided just to take the cash deal.
And that's exactly how you go about doing it. If it is a house that is in severe distress, Okay, broken windows, falling apart, boarded up, you know what I mean, severe distress. You can sell anything in the MLS, right? That's not a problem. However, it's going to it's not eligible for FHA financing. It's not eligible for VA financing. So we're not going to find somebody who's going to have to go get a loan. We're going to have to find an investor. I'm going to tell you, I'm an investor. Guess what? We all have the same numbers that we want to work with, right? You might be able to find somebody 1,000 less, 1,000 more, but we got to look for them and we're going to have to wait. I said, or you can take my cash offer, right? So, sorry, did you have something else?
No.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you a couple of things that I do. So this is the one that I just got under contract. But if you notice right here on the seller, I put my company's name and then I add this phrase right behind it and or assigns. This just makes things a lot easier when you get to the title company. This means basically my company can buy it, which I might take this house down. Like this one right here, we were talking about it. Am I going to buy it or am I going to wholesale it? I don't really know just yet. But now I have the option. So I can do Wandering Texans LLC, which is my company, my flipping company. We can buy it and or I can assign it if I decide. So this gives me options and I explain that to them. And guys, you have to be extremely forthright. I might have to go to another investor and let them know, hey, look, do you want to buy this? And if so, I might make some money selling it to them. I don't know how much money I'm going to make. That's the risk I'm taking. If I don't send it to another investor, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to buy it for this amount, cash, $44,000. Okay. By the way, guys, the rest of the contract's filled out exactly the same, you know, depending on what you want to do with it. Okay. And there's videos on that. We're not going to go over this. I just wanted to show you Wandering Texans and or assigned and the fact that I'm offering $44,000 in cash. At the same time that she signs this contract, we are also giving them the exhibit alpha for the purchase, for a property purchase. I walk them through this very, very thoroughly because I need them to understand.
And just to jump in, this is actually on the agent's page under resources.
Right. You can find this is on the agent page under resources.
It's not yellow Collin.
No, it's yellow Ryan. I get it. No, it is. I know it isn't it. So this is the one that I had her sign as well. And I go over this with them. All right. The original one. Yeah. And thank you to Hillary and Marco for this. And we have had the lawyers look it over. Hillary and Marco's lawyers looked it over. Our lawyers looked it over. It is good. But I walk them through this. I'm letting you know I do need access to the property. I may need to come over here and take pictures. I may come over here and have people inspect it. And I may have other people inspect it that are not with me. Are you okay with that? Usually they're fine with it because they understand people want to know what they're buying. Approval by the partner stated in partner is a third party person and or company working with the buyer to facilitate this close of transaction. So not only do I need to approve it, the other people need to approve it. Buyer's right to disclose property details. When signing this addendum, the seller agrees to give the buyer the right to disclose all information regarding this property. This is letting them know I may tell Erik everything I know about this property. And you are telling me that's okay for me to tell Erik that or whomever else I speak to. I may utilize all sources deemed necessary to communicate and or advertise this property. I can put it in the MLS. Guys, we don't allow that. You're not going to put it in the MLS until you own it. Okay. That's something called novation, and we're not even going to get into that. But I can put it online. I can send out emails. I can put it in Facebook. I can do whatever I want. And you're telling me by signing this that you're okay with that. The last one right here, the buyer's intention to purchase the property or assignment. It is understood by the seller and the original buyer fully and initially intends to purchase the seller's property at the original contract, which was at $44,000. However, the original buyer, me, my company, reserves the full rights to assign this. Okay. To another person. Okay. The decision to straight purchase this is my decision. It's not theirs, what I do with it. And by signing it, they agreed to all aspects regarding the assignment. So whatever I say during the assignment, they don't really have a say in. All they have a say in is the original 1 to 4. And guys, this part right here is the most important part of the entire thing. This right here is where I'm telling them I am licensed. Collin Quarrington holds a Texas real estate license. Regarding this property, White Line Realty does not represent any party in any capacity. This is getting White Line and Erik away from the transaction.
This right here is the #1 reason why most brokerages do not allow you know, wholesaling, investing, and things like that is because of the wearing the two hats. You know, you're always a realtor, 24/7, and you have to. This is like the most important document that we have, and that needs to be done. And this is probably the only reason I would ever, you know, get rid of an agent is if they weren't abiding by this, because this is what keeps us. I mean, anyone can sue anyone, right? But this is what keeps us from really getting sued. And I mean, like, really.
Well, it's not even sued so much, in my opinion. It's keeping Trek off our back.
But they'll sue you.
Well, they'll fine you. They don't. You don't get to argue with them. They just say, guess what? You owe us money. So, and I walk them through this, and I have them sign both sides of this, guys. I sign it saying I don't represent Wandering Texans. I sign it saying I don't represent you. And I tell them, if you feel like you need representation, if you need some help with this, please let me know. I can get somebody to help represent you, but I'm not representing you.
How do we change that? Is it
I need to
an
just
editable
update it.
document?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, the bottom needs to be changed.
Yeah, sorry. I'll update that.
Real quick, can I add to this real quick?
Yeah.
So on this on this exhibit alpha, what I do in my wholesaling is I'm not the one directly speaking with the sellers. I'm not the acquisition person. We have somebody who does that for us. But when the acquisition person on our team reaches out to the seller, they always do the IABS. Actually, in fact, since you're technically the middle person in a wholesale transaction, we have both sides sign IABSs on every single transaction. So even if we have a repeat buyer, like we have one buyer that's like constantly buying from us, like every single time he buys anything, he signs a new IABS. But on this exhibit alpha, this is like obviously a front end doc that the seller would sign. At the back end, once we have all the original seller signed documents, that's including the contract, any amendments, this exhibit alpha, lead-based paint addendum, seller's disclosure, like literally anything that would come on the front end with the seller, the back end also has to sign off everything. We're super transparent. There's a lot of wholesalers that are not transparent. They try and hide that assignment fee from the buyer just so because they don't want like people to see how much they're making. But honestly, at the end of the day, you have to be transparent to make it work, to not get in trouble for like less liability. And if the numbers work, it really doesn't matter what fee you're making anyway. And so this exhibit alpha, while yes, the seller signs and then you sign it as buyer, because technically on the front contract, you're buyer on the contract, then we always have the back end actual buyer sign it off as well. They don't sign a different one. They just sign the one that the seller and I have signed.
So what she's saying, if I do assign this, guys, I need to have another signature. Let's say Erik does end up buying this. Let's say I sign it to Erik. Erik's going to sign here too, stating he understands I don't represent him either.
Exactly.
Does that make sense, everybody? Or if I sell it to ABC Investment Firm, whoever's the representative for ABC Investment Firm will sign here as well.
And the reason why, the reason why I would do that is just because we have had buyers in the past come back at us and try and be like, I didn't know A, B, and C. Well, yeah, you did, because you literally initialed off of every single thing that I have in my file. So there's no, you can't say you didn't know this or know that. Or like, let's say the seller, like we've had a lot of issues with sellers disclosure where they're like, oh, I didn't know there was no roof on the house. Well, you did, you signed the seller's disclosure. So like every document, including this exhibit alpha, has to be signed by the back end. I will not allow us to close on any property, any transaction. There's no closing of any transaction if I'm missing something. And so that's kind of why Marco likes me in this position, because I do not allow anything to happen that's not correct, because even if you close a property and you close a transaction, it's literally going to come back at you at some point. It might not happen right away, but somebody could sue you at any point. So we just make sure we do everything correct.
And I have already had Trek reach out to me on issues like this. So this is very important. And it you know, it wasn't just for not having this signed, it was some other things, but it was in the wholesale world, you know, collecting a fee, things like that. And, you know, it's an ongoing process right now, but, you know, this is very important, guys, that, I mean, we have to disclose this. You know, I mean, if we're going to be, you know, an investment brokerage, which is what we are, like we highly recommend everyone invest in real estate. I mean, I don't understand why people that are in the real estate industry don't invest, but we have to follow the rules so that, you know, we don't have tricks sending us certified letters and, you know, subpoenaing emails and everything else.
And
It's
also,
no fun for me.
in your brokerage agreement that you signed when you signed up for us, any fees occurred due to your malfeasance, for lack of a better term, it's going to be your responsibility. So guys, and save yourself money just by, like Hillary hit the nail on the head. I think the most important thing is you have to be insanely transparent. Hillary's company does not withhold how much the assignment fee is. It's in their emails. It's in everything. Okay. Some people are like, oh man, they're going to be mad if they found out I made $70,000. Don't care. You need to just let it out there. Do not double close these transactions. For those of y'all that know what I'm talking about, you're not going to double close them. We're going to just be completely transparent about everything. So that is a very, very important thing, guys, is transparency during these transactions, because I know this is where everybody wants to start. Everybody wants to do this. Like, oh my God, I can make a quick 20 grand. Yeah, it sounds great, but it's not that great if you get fined 20 grand, you know, a month later because you were trying to be shady. Okay. It's just not worth it. It's not worth the time. Next thing I wanted to show you guys is the assignment of contract that I use. Once I have this whole thing done, I do have an assignment of contract. We probably need to get one of these approved for White Line, and I'll send this one over to the lawyer to make sure this is okay. But this right here is the document that states the assignment of contract made on, this is an old one, right, on this property is between me and this other person. So this is a blank one that I got from somewhere. And you just fill all this stuff out explaining what's exactly going on. These are very different. Before I really walk through this, guys, I'm going to make sure it gets approved. But once I get one approved and lawyer verified, I'll put it in the agent's page for you to use here going forward. But, and then so I add that last page I just had, and I send that to title. And now I'm out of the transaction. It's now between the seller and the end buyer, if that makes sense to everybody. And Hillary, while I'm thinking about it, will you send me your assignment just so I can look at it too?
Sure.
The page that y'all use, just a template one.
Ours is a little more detailed because, like, on our buyers, if it's a new buyer, we charge them a transaction fee. If they're like a first-time buyer, and so there's like other things, and we disclose whether there's tenants in the property or not. I mean, it's like super broken down. So yeah, I can totally do that.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because I know you definitely do a lot better on the detail orientation than I do. So yeah, send that over to me whenever you get a moment. I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
So guys, I mean, that's wholesaling in a nutshell on what happens. Basically, what you were selling is the contract. The important thing that I really, 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 really want everybody to understand is you have to disclose everything to everybody. Okay. You don't want these people coming back saying, oh, I thought you were going to buy it. I didn't realize you were going to sell that, because guys, you have to think about it for a minute. She can come back and say, well, you offered me 44 and you sold it for 65, Collin. How come you didn't know you could sell it for 65? Honestly, I didn't know I could sell it for 65. I took that risk and now I'm getting rewarded on that. Right. And so I let them know. I was like, there's no telling what's happening. So, or I'm going to end up buying this transaction. Okay. Erik, anything else you want to add on this?
Yeah, no way. Let's have some fun.
All right. You want to talk? All right. You talk.
What's up?
Questions, comments, concerns. Let's start there.
Yeah, let's loosey goosey. Let's just talk. What do y'all want to talk about?
About wholesaling, please.
Why? Let's have some talk. What do y'all want to know?
Hey, Collin.
Yeah.
Collin, so can you send out a contract to all of us that shows like the timeline that you put in where you own that equitable interest? Because isn't there like, can't you put in there that you have maybe like an option period of 45 days or something? Or like, can you kind of go over that? So that way, hold on, I just lost my screen.
Yeah, now you got to look at me again. Okay, so yes. So
do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. You can write your contract however you want. Okay. Some of the cautions that I take, as you can see, I send in $400 in earnest money, and I have 0 term option period. Okay.
I don't ever put option period. I always want.
I'm prepared to buy it. Okay. I've looked at it. It looked good enough to me. Now, it might be smart of you to, so this is a 1% earnest money deposit. Okay. Or just short of. Okay. I'm that confident. And if this whole deal just completely falls apart, I lose $400. I've seen earnest money. Now you have to have valuable consideration in here, guys. You can't put $0, but you can put $1.
Put 10.
Okay. You can put $10. You've got to have some sort of valuable consideration for earnest money. There has to be earnest money. And the option fee is up to you. So sometimes I'm like, hey, look, and sometimes I'm real honest with people. I said, hey, I'm going to try to hold, like if I'm dealing with another investor, I was like, hey, look, yeah, I did this with a fourplex. I'm going to try to assign this. I said, but I'm going to give myself 10 days and I'll give you $100. So basically, if I can't assign this in 10 days, you walk away with $100, we're done. Okay. And he was happy with that. He's like, all right, yeah, you got 10 days, $100, ready, set, go. And I was able to assign that one. So you can put that in. Deborah, does that answer your question? I'm gonna go with yes.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yes, kind of. I guess I'll just get better at understanding this once I actually start a deal.
Well, it's
I
the
know,
same as any transaction.
Yeah, you can pretty much, it's whatever you negotiate with the seller. So if you want like a long option period, you can. Typically in wholesale, the allure of going the wholesale route with the seller is because you can pretty much skip all that and move quickly. But it's whatever you negotiate, really. We don't put
so, but don't like, so if I was trying to get the equitable interest to reassign it to somebody to make a profit like you guys, wouldn't I want to give myself more time to find somebody to buy it from me? Or
you can't. So my timeline on this particular contract is till August 27th, because that's what I put as the closing date.
I think
So I've got till August 27th or I forfeit my earnest money.
Yeah. I think Deborah, what they're explaining is you get an idea, like for example with Collin, if he knows that he is going to buy it hands down regardless, he doesn't even put an option because he knows, hey, I'm going to move forward with this transaction. But if you are not planning to purchase it, which maybe most new wholesalers might not be in that position to be able to make that purchase right out the gate, you might want to give yourself some time so that way you have time to assign it. So, I mean, that's really how you're getting a feel for in the transaction, communicating with the seller.
In this particular transaction, I am gambling $400 that I will either buy it or assign it by August 27th.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I gambled. Also, guys, I need to point this out too. Section 8, super important. Anything you buy as an investor, you have got to disclose that you are an agent. So what I write in here is principal member of the purchasing company, which is me, it's a single member LLC, is a licensed real estate agent in Texas. Again, disclose, 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 disclose. I can't say that enough. I am licensed. I say that to them 700 times. I never want them to come back and say, oh, you never told me he was licensed and that he's way smarter than me. Yes, I did tell you that. Well, that guys, I always use that joke because that's how Trek looks at it. Trek looks at it as if you are so much smarter than the general public and that you are taking advantage of them. So you got to disclose that.
so
what else we got,
do
guys?
most of y'all when you start, do y'all plan on just reassigning it, or do most of y'all when you start just plan on buying it?
So for me personally, every deal that comes through my pipeline as a wholesale transaction, I mean, there's like probably a handful that we actually want to buy, which so we'll contract it as Hilco Homes, which is our wholesale company, and then we basically just create an assignment and assign it to whatever company whatever entity we're putting it in. So I have a series LLC, so it could go into Bella Buyers A, B, C, D, I mean, all the way till whatever. So it just depends. But most of the time, like our wholesale transactions, we don't keep. So I already know I'm going to like wholesale it out. But at the beginning, if you're like brand new to wholesaling, like it's going to take a while for you to like build your buyer's network. So that could be a good option for you to like have that option period if you feel like you might not be able to move it very quickly. It just depends on like who you're connected with and how you find a buyer for it. But typically my wholesale deals are just wholesale. It's rare that I purchase one directly.
Okay. I'm really going to want to talk to you outside of this meeting if that's okay at some point.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
You also want to be really careful that you have the ability to buy, right? So, I mean, if you tie up a contract and you have no money, you have no lending capabilities, and you never had the intention to buy, there are some issues with that. I mean, it's hard to prove, but, you know, Hillary, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't do a lot of wholesaling. I always, you know, buy it to buy it. But there is something there, right?
Yeah, there is. I mean, there's still ways to get out of the contract. So obviously the earnest money you can terminate pretty much at any point, and then you lose the earnest money, which is why it's good to just like have a lower earnest money, or like Collin, like $400 isn't really that much of a loss if you really intended to try and move it. The other thing I would say is sorry, I forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay. So one of the things that Hillary mentioned is she goes about having a buyer's list. Guys, you know, you want to know who you're going to try and sell it to. Now, if you work with people that are known buyers, yes, you want to reach out to these guys first, because a lot of people are looky-loos when it comes to this. But if you, like, a lot of times I'll put these things on real estate investing pages on Facebook. You know, you'll see a lot of deals that come through here. Assignment of contract, Dignity Hill. So this
Nothing more fun than putting something out there and having 30 other wholesalers that pretend to be end buyers calling you.
exactly, and then you got a lot of wholesalers trying to daisy chain it, which that's a whole nother conversation.
What I would do
Guys,
too, sorry, I would
go
also, like, if you have a deal, like if you get a wholesale transaction and it's like a really good deal, I strongly advise you to file a memorandum, because it's basically putting a lien. You're going down to the courthouse and you're like filing this, like it's a notarized copy, and you're filing it with the courthouse, so that if, like, let's say the seller signs another contract with another wholesaler, because like wholesalers, I'm just gonna say it, sue me, but I'm gonna say it, there's a lot of snakes in the grass in wholesaling, and people will go around you. They'll find out you have a contract, they're gonna go around and talk to that seller also. They're gonna try and like basically take that house from you. So if it is a really good deal, file a memorandum. It basically puts a lien on that property. So if the other wholesaler closes that property, they actually can't close it, because you'll come up on the title search. And actually, we've gotten a lot of paydays. We've gotten a lot of paydays just from like properties that are transactions that have fallen apart, that like, or whatever. And I was also going to say too, sometimes too, a lot of times wholesale deals will fall apart just because the seller can't clear title. So that's another thing. Like, a lot of times wholesalers are, people that wholesale their properties are distressed people. They have distressed houses, they're distressed people. So a lot of times they have like 500 family members and they all hate each other, and so won't sign, and months go by, and then the like 10 months go by, and then the whole transaction blows up in your face and you don't get to close on it. Well, I'll file a memorandum, because I'm going to make sure I get paid somehow. Even if it's a year from now and they try and resell it, I'm going to get paid on it, because I just spent all this time, you know. And that's a negotiation at the back end. When you get an email from somebody saying, please sign this release, I'll be like, no, give me $5,000 for my time. So I recommend, definitely, we don't do memorandums on everything because it does cost money. It just depends on the property. If there's like a really good equity spread or something, we will definitely file memorandums.
Be really careful on memorandums. Make sure you have the ability to pay for it. Make sure your contract is bulletproof. I've had my attorney, like Tony Shaker, and he files them. I've had to do it on a couple, and it worked out in my favor. But there was one where he goes, I would go and just remove it or something. I don't remember how we got it away, but there was something I didn't do right, and he's like, you can get sued very quickly for tying this property up like this. And the contract was wrong. I don't remember what the situation was, but I remember it scared the crap out of me, and it was a lesson learned.
Here's what I'll say about that, especially for the greener people doing wholesaling. Guys, a memorandum just basically says I have the right to sell the property or buy the property, and it keeps anybody else from going in there and signing a new contract. It points to a contract, okay? But if you're doing this and you're green and something weird starts happening, please, for the love of all things good and holy, pick up the phone. Call me, call Erik, call Hillary, call somebody. We may point you at a lawyer. Hey, look, you're getting deep. You need to go talk to a lawyer, guys. Wholesaling can be very finicky. So do not try, if anything starts to smell weird, you need to pick up the phone.
I mean, if you've got good morals and stuff, I mean, you'll know when you're crossing the line, right?
It's hard to be nervous when your mind's on service.
Yeah. So the deal that we're dealing with right now that Trek is involved in, I mean, it's a pretty obvious one, you know, but there's so many gray areas when it comes to real estate investing and wholesaling and things like that, and it's assumptions, right? So, well, I thought you meant this, or I thought you were going to do that, and then you did this. So it goes back to like what Hillary and Collin said earlier: is if you're open and honest and disclose absolutely everything, and it's in writing, or you have some sort of paper trail, a lot of those deals go away. So I got in trouble with Trek one time. I had a guy call me, wanted to buy a lot I had in Canyon Lake. We went back and forth via text. We agreed on a price. I sent him a contract. He didn't sign it. In the meantime, a realtor reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got a client that wants to buy this property." I said, "Great. I've got an offer supposedly coming in, but let me know." They sent over a contract. We signed it. The guy then signed the contract that I sent him, and I told him, "Hey, it's already under contract." And he's like, "No, I just signed the contract." I'm like, "Well, yeah, you signed, but I never signed." Because I always send my side blank because of situations like this, because I don't want them to, on the 11th hour, sign it, and now it's a binding contract. So, anyways, he got with Trek and told him how bad of a person I was, and all this stuff. And so Trek reached out to me, and they wanted copies of all the text messages, they wanted copies of all the emails, they wanted copies of absolutely everything. And about 30 days later, they said, "Yep, there's nothing here. You never had it under contract. You're fine. High five. See you later." But it scared the crap out of me. I mean, when Trek sends you an email, it gets your heart pumping. And I forgot where I was even going with that, but disclosure and making sure everything's writing. So if I wouldn't have had my paper trail, that's why I like text messaging a lot. If I wouldn't have had all that, it probably could have gotten worse, for me.
I will say, I'll add to that, like a couple years ago, and it wasn't the situation wasn't even with any buyers or sellers or anything. It was actually with another agent an agent who was under a brokerage where the broker was like old and hated wholesalers, hated investors, and she joined our team. And when he found out she joined our wholesaling team, he filed a complaint against us with Trek. And Trek is no joke. They called, they looked us all up on social media. They'll go after anything. They interviewed basically everyone they could get a hold of. They interviewed people who were even just like not even a part of Hilco. They interviewed everybody, and it went on forever. So you don't want to piss Trek off at all, even though it was like she just joined our team and it was like whatever, he just didn't like wholesalers, so he went after us for basically taking his agent. And I'm like, well, she's a big girl, she can decide what she wants to do. So anyway, that broker fired her, and anyway, he fired her, and I'll have to tell you why later, Erik, why I'm so he fired her, and she didn't even last with us very long in Hilco, and it was a whole issue, and it wasn't even an angry seller or an angry buyer. It was just an angry broker who was like, "Oh, I hate wholesalers," and so it was.
There's a lot of them like that, Hillary. I mean, I would say most brokers have no experience in investing. They don't understand it. They don't like it. I mean, I understand, their perspective, because if it's not done right, you can get in trouble. Because like what I tell all new agents that want to do investing is, you are an agent, you are a licensed realtor, a licensed agent. Sorry. 24/7, right? It's like a doctor. Think of a doctor. I mean, if you're sitting there having lunch with a doctor and he tells you, "Hey, go take this medicine," and you get really sick and almost die, I mean, your biggest complaint is, "Well, he's a doctor, I took his word for it." And he can't come back and tell you, "Well, we weren't in my doctor's office, it was after hours." No, dude, you're a doctor. You're a doctor. I don't care when you're a doctor, you're always a doctor. So use that analogy when you're a realtor. Anytime you're talking they are looking up to you as a licensed expert, right? And if you tell them something, they are going to hang on every single word. So be very careful not to manipulate or put yourself in a situation where Trek can come down and use it against you.
So I hate to be rude, but I have a 1 o'clock appointment in San Antonio. We got time for one more question, plus it's been an hour. So does anybody else have one more question or something we didn't have? Or if you would like to ask me, you can call me 210-602-6979. You can call Erik or Hillary, I guess, if you want to give them your email. What's your email, Hillary?
Hillary.w.romero@gmail, or just find me on social media.
I mean, take a lot of questions, guys. Please ask all the questions on the Facebook group, because there's always other agents that may want the same answer or that have the same question, and it's a lot easier. Plus, we get a lot more different. So I mean, like, I know what I know because of what I've done, you know. But if you ask me, Collin, Ryan, Oscar, Isaac, I mean, we're all going to have different answers, right? Because knowledge comes from experience. And so the good thing about asking your questions on the Facebook group is you get a bunch of different answers, even though they may all be the same. In the end, you get different perspectives. So please bring a lot of your questions. I love when people ask questions on the Facebook group. It just makes all of us better together.
Gotcha. I love that. All right, guys, I love you. I gotta go to San Antonio.